Hi, and welcome to our second week of the Unified Mission Seminar. This week we are focusing on our Franciscan heritage and the concept of servant leadership here at Viterbo University. Once again, the purpose of these videos, I'll be offering one of these videos at the beginning of every week to just kind of give you a lowdown on what we're studying for the week and to give you some tips on assignments that are going to be due, that sort of thing. So to start off with the independent learning that you're doing this week, you have two readings. The first is in this book here by Galli, St. Francis of Assisi and His World. It's a scholarly biography about St. Francis, who is the patron saint of not only pets, which I see a number of you are fans of, but of also our university here, Viterbo, and the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, which is the women's religious order who founded Viterbo University. So you'll be reading the introduction through chapter 6 in Galli for this week. And then continued reading in Loeb's Soul of a Citizen. This week you'll be reading chapter 2, which happens to be entitled We Don't Have to Be Saints, which is interesting considering that we are reading about a saint this week. But you'll find from that reading about St. Francis that he was definitely not a saint to start off with, and that his entire life was really a journey of personal transformation that we can all admire and hearken to, strive to be like. He's a great role model for all of us even today. Besides the readings you'll be doing, there's also a couple of things for you to check out on Moodle. The first is a PowerPoint that outlines our Franciscan charism, the history of the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, and how Viterbo University came to be. And then besides that PowerPoint, there's also a video entitled What is a Servant Leader? That's also posted under week 2 in Moodle. So take a look at those things, and that pretty much sums up your independent learning for the week. You have several assignments that are also due this week. The first is the first deliberation paper, which is due on Sunday, January 24th. The topic of this deliberation paper is liberal arts education. And you can see there's a, what would I call it, a assignment guideline narrative in the syllabus that tells you what I'm looking for you to write about. Specifically, as I'm reading your papers, here are some questions that I'm looking for you to answer through this paper. The first is, why did you select Viterbo University as your institution of choice? 2, what are your career goals after graduation? 3, that you provide a researched history of liberal arts education. And I want to emphasize that word researched, that you have gone out and gone online, gone to the library, maybe you have some books at home from past studies, that you utilize sources from outside of what I have provided you here, either as a textbook or as a resource on Moodle. And lastly, that you discuss what benefits a liberal arts education provides as compared to other types of institutions, for instance, junior colleges, technical schools, or other types of degree programs like training certifications or associate's degrees. Deliberation papers are to be 3 to 5 pages in length, and that is text text body that does not include any sort of a title page or works cited. However, you should have a works cited or bibliography with this paper, since you're asked to provide some outside researched sources, and make sure that you cite those sources within the body of your paper, as well as providing that bibliography or works cited page. That should be done in whatever style of writing is typical for your field of study. So for some of you that will be APA, some of you will be MLA, a few of you it might be Chicago, or there's a couple of other different writing styles out there. So whatever is typical for your major. If you don't know, ask your advisor. And if you are not familiar with the specifics of like how to cite sources using the writing style for your major, there are a couple resources for you. The first is that Smart Thinking online tutor service. You can send your paper to them and say, hey, I've written this in APA style. Have I cited my sources correctly? And they'll help you out with that. And the other is right here at Viterbo, we have the Academic Resource Center, and they also offer online paper review. To access that, you can go to the Viterbo website and search Academic Resource Center. That'll get you to their homepage. They also, at the top of Moodle, there is a link to get to the academic resource page as well. And just to if you've never used that resource before, it's not something that you can just be like, oh, I'm going to send my paper off like the day before it's due and they get back to you. You need to set up an appointment, which is basically they say, we're going to look at your paper at this time and we'll get it back to you by this time, so that you have adequate time to make adjustments to your paper before it is due. So give yourself a few days before the due date to get that sent off to whatever resource you may need help with. They can also help if writing isn't your strong point and you need help with some grammar things. They can point you in the right direction. They're not going to proofread and correct the paper for you, but they can give you some help and access to resources to help you with your proofreading as well. Let's see. There's a rubric associated with the deliberation paper, and that can be accessed. It's in the syllabus, and it also can be accessed when you click on where you're supposed to submit your paper. There you will also see the rubric there. And it's important to look at that, because that contains the grading criteria that I use in grading your papers. Kind of in general, what I'm going to be looking for is that you have a well-developed, well-formed paper that has an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. I'm going to look that you've addressed all of the topic points that I just went over with you, as well as what's in that assignment guideline narrative, which it's basically the same thing. And then and that you have utilized external resources in writing your paper. Now, when you look at that rubric, you'll see that you get the most points in this grading criteria if you have used extensive resources in writing your paper. I'm going to define extensive as 3 or more external resources. The next point area is if you've used limited external resources. I'm going to define limited as 1 to 2. And then there are 2 other point areas. One is if you have used no external resources, but have used some internal resources like our textbooks or something that I provided you in Moodle. And then the last point area is that you didn't use any resources whatsoever. You just you wrote off the cuff. So just to kind of give you an idea, and that's the same for all of the deliberation papers. Let me know if you have any questions about what I'm looking for. How I like to use rubrics I'll write the paper, and then I'll take my draft and I'll compare it to the rubric and make sure that I have met all of the grading criteria, and I'll make whatever adjustments to the paper I need to make in order to fulfill the rubric requirements. That honestly is how I grade the papers, especially for a class like this where some opinion comes into things. I don't care about opinions, or if I agree with your opinion or not. I'm looking at that rubric and seeing how did you meet those grading criteria. The second assignment of the week is also due on Sunday, January 24th. It is our next Loeb question and answer assignment, and this is for using the reading of Chapter 2 for this week. I haven't had a chance to really review the first Loeb Q&A that you did, but I'm going to give you some tips based on my past experience with this class and what students seem to maybe struggle with when it comes to these assignments. There are two parts of this paper or essay or whatever you want to call it. The first is the question you pose, and the second is the answer. So the question you pose, make sure that it is a question that provokes discussion. Try to avoid using questions that can simply be answered with a yes or no. I like to use questions that start with the words how or why, because those sort of questions really they require analysis by the responder. There is a rubric that is associated with the assignment. It's in the syllabus, and once again, it's also on Moodle when you click on where you're supposed to submit this paper. It's the same for all of the Q&A assignments. Kind of to give you an idea of what I'm looking for as I'm utilizing that rubric. For the question, if you ask a multiple question, make sure that you answer all parts of the question. So let's say in the question you pose, you have 3 mini questions within that overall question. Make sure in your answer that you have addressed all 3 of the mini questions. This is not a book report. I'm not looking for you to regurgitate Loeb for me. What I'm looking for is your thoughts on the reading that you did for the week. That's where the analysis comes in. One way to facilitate analysis is to integrate personal experience and classroom learning. So if you want full points under that grading criteria, you will integrate both personal experience and classroom learning. And what I consider classroom learning in an online class is information you gleaned from past discussion boards, the textbooks, anything that I've posted, whether they're documents or videos on Moodle, any information or experiences that you came upon that are directly related with this class. And then the last thing with these Q&A assignments, spelling and grammar does affect your grade. You get points docked off for spelling and grammar errors. So make sure you proofread these assignments. Have someone else proofread them for you if writing is not your strong point. It's really a shame when people just breeze through the assignment and don't proofread and hand it in and lose points for, when you could have taken 5 minutes to look over your paper and you wouldn't have lost any points. And especially it's kind of, I think people, you get docked 0.1 point per spelling error. And so I think a lot of times people are like, oh gosh, that's nothing, I'm not going to worry about it. But it can add up, especially in a paper. This is you need to have 200 to 250 word answer to the question you pose, and it is possible, if you don't proofread, it's possible to have quite a few spelling errors and grammar errors, and I've had people lose up to 2 points on these papers because of spelling errors. So just take the time to proofread and you won't have to worry about that. Once again, if you have any questions about the rubric or the assignment, throw me an email, send me a text. This week, if you haven't started investigating where you will be doing your service learning project, don't procrastinate any longer. There's a lot of, if you've not done a lot of volunteering in the past, especially more formalized service like this, there's a lot that comes to it along with it. You're going to play phone tag. There may be volunteer training you need to do in advance of actually doing your service. There's a whole multitude of things that it sounds like it should be a breeze to get in, and it's not. So start now. Start making those connections so you don't get caught without a community partner when it's time to hand in those project proposals, which is coming up in just a week or so. And take a look at, under week 3 is posted the service learning project proposal. It's a form that you need to fill out. There's some questions on there that you need to fill out. And then not only do you sign it, but you also need to have a representative from your community partner sign it. So take a look at that sheet this week. It'll be helpful for you, like when you meet with your community partner for the first time, to just see if it's a good fit or whatever. You might it'll help you know what questions to ask and information to gather during those times. Let's see what else. Yes, and then we have 2 discussion boards this week. This coming week, we have it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday here. So there is a Martin Luther King Jr. discussion board. There is a link to a video of the entire speech by Martin Luther King that's in the question area of the discussion. So watch that video, and then the discussion board poses the question that you should answer. Once again, there is a rubric associated with this. That rubric is found only in the syllabus. The way Moodle works, they don't do rubrics with discussion boards, as far as embedded rubrics. So look at that rubric. Once again, what I'm looking for when I'm reading your discussion post, that you are posting on time, that you're posting on multiple days, that you refer to other students' posts. Not only, and I'm not talking about, your second post is that a reply to another student's initial post, but I want to see evidence that you're actually reading everybody's posts, and so maybe you're you're replying to Josh's response to the question, but you're going to talk about something that you read in Paul's post. So that this creates a discussion, more of a live discussion feel in the board. I'm going to be looking for you to ask a question in response at some point during the discussion. And I expect that everyone be tolerant of everyone's opinions. We're all different people. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different opinions. And our job, my job, is not to say anyone's position is or opinion is right or wrong. And nor is it yours. We just need to be tolerant of each other's opinions, and through that tolerance, we're able to grow as learners and grow not only in understanding our own opinions if it differs from someone else's, but also perhaps being open and growing in our understanding of a certain topic. So that's specifically for the Martin Luther King Jr. discussion board. We also have our first current events discussion board, and the topic is Syria. And you're going to be asked to do some research about Syria and what's currently going on in Syria and the United States response or whatever to the current state in Syria. There is a different discussion board topic for this that's also located in the syllabus. Oh, I should back up. The Martin Luther King Jr. discussion board used the online discussion board participation rubric. That's the rubric we're using for that one. For the current events discussion board, this one on Syria, use the current events online discussion rubric. There's several different discussion board rubrics in the syllabus. So in general, what I'm going to be looking for is that you demonstrate that you understand the current dynamics of the topic. Since this is about Syria, specifically about what's going on in Syria and how that's affecting things on a global level. I'm going to be looking that you not only state your opinion, but that you support your opinion with evidence. Just stating your opinion is not good enough. That if you have no evidential support for your opinion, you have an unfounded opinion, regardless of what your opinion is. I'm going to be looking for you to use and cite outside sources in support of your opinion. And so that means that you, in the discussion board, when you cite these sources, you need to do in-text citations as well as include some sort of bibliography at the end of your initial discussion board. Let's see, what else am I looking for? I'm looking that you bring in personal experience, whether it is your own personal experience or someone else you know, or maybe it's an experience of someone that you have witnessed on media, whether it's something you saw on TV or social media, some experience that you can refer to and bring in. So that basically, those are the specifics about each of those discussion boards. Some tips for discussion boards in general. These are some what Viterbo considers best practices for discussion board and online learning. So you are expected, there is an expected minimum of 2 posts to be made. The first post is your response to the discussion question that's being posed. And that first post is a 250 word minimum. Make sure you meet the word minimum. So many times people ignore that and you lose points just because you didn't think enough about the question. The second post is your reply to another student's initial post. So don't use your second post as a reply to another student's reply to another student. Make that second post a reply to another student's initial post. And that second post of yours is a 150 word minimum. Now, so you've got these two minimum posts. It is important that you do not make these two posts on the same day. The reason behind that is that it creates a more discussion-like exchange in the discussion board. It also prevents people from showing up on Moodle one day and on Moodle and inundating the discussion all at once. It's important for you to process the question, share that what you've processed of the discussion question, then to take a step back, do some reading of other students' posts, and then the next day or a following day, then make a response to another student's question. It provides for more thoughtful discussion. Now, these two minimum posts will get you a C. That's average participation. You're going to post twice. If you feel like you're an above average student, you'll post more frequently than just those two times. For those subsequent posts, there is no word minimum. There's no spacing expectation with those posts. That just is showing that you are engaged in and fully participating in the discussion, and that will generate you points that will provide for an A or a B for that discussion. If you have any questions about those expectations, let me know. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. Email's a great way to touch base with me. I respond to texts. Phone is not the best, to be honest with you, because I don't have a phone in my office here at Viterbo, and at my other job, I'm not allowed to even have my cell phone on during the day when I'm working. So text me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I'm able to check my phone, or send me an email, because I do check those actually quite frequently throughout the day. So I think that's it. I hope you're enjoying the class, and I look forward to reading your insights on Martin Luther King Jr. and the what's going on in Syria right now. Thanks.